The man who promised the impossible. The true story of Charles Ponzi. In the summer of 1920, one man in the city of Boston was making nearly $250,000 a day. He didn't own a factory. He didn't own a gold mine. He hadn't invented anything. He owned one thing, and one thing only: a promise. "Give me your money today," he said, "and in 90 days, I'll give you back double." And people believed him. Thousands of them. They lined up around the block, clutching the savings of a lifetime, begging to hand it over. There was just one problem. The man behind the desk wasn't investing a single dollar of it, and the clock was already ticking down. This is the story of Charles Ponzi, the swindler so brilliant and so brazen that more than 100 years later, we still put his name on the crime itself. Welcome. If this kind of story is what you're here for, real cases, real people, and the moment everything falls apart, stick with me all the way to the end. Because with Ponzi, the fall was even stranger than the climb. Let's go back to the beginning. A man with nothing. His real name was Carlo Ponzi. He was born in Italy in 1882 into a family that had once known comfort and now knew very little of it. In 1903, he boarded a ship for the United States. By his own account, he stepped off the boat in Boston with $2.50 in his pocket, and, as he liked to put it, $1 million in hopes. He had gambled away most of his money on the voyage over. For years, that was the whole story of his life. He drifted. He washed dishes. He waited tables. He got fired for shortchanging customers. He moved from city to city looking for the break that never came. And then came the part of his life he never advertised. In Canada, he took a job at a bank that collapsed under fraud, and Ponzi was caught forging a check. He went to prison. When he got out and crossed back into the United States, he was arrested again, this time for smuggling Italian immigrants across the border. More prison time. So by the time the world would come to know Charles Ponzi as a financial genius, he was already something else entirely. He was a man with 2 prison records, no money, and no future. What he needed was an idea. The idea. In 1919, that idea arrived in the mail. Ponzi received a letter from Europe, and inside it was something called an international reply coupon. It was a simple thing, a coupon you could buy in one country in exchange for postage stamps in another, so that a person overseas could pay for your reply. But Ponzi noticed something. The First World War had wrecked the economies of Europe. Currencies there had collapsed, and that meant a coupon bought cheaply in a country like Italy could, in theory, be redeemed in the United States for stamps worth several times as much. Buy low in Europe. Cash out high in America. Pure profit. On paper, it was legal. On paper, it was genius. And here is the most important sentence in this entire story, so listen closely. The plan worked perfectly. On paper. In the real world, it was almost impossible to do. Shipping millions of tiny coupons across an ocean, redeeming them one by one through the post office, converting the currencies, the cost and the chaos ate up every cent of profit before you ever saw it. Ponzi knew this. He tried it, in a small way, and it failed. But he had already seen something far more valuable than profit. He had seen the story, and the story was good enough to sell. The promise. In December of 1919, Ponzi opened a company with an official-sounding name, the Securities Exchange Company. His pitch was irresistible. Invest your money with him, he said, and he would put it into these coupons. In return, he promised you a 50% profit in just 45 days. Leave it for 90, and your money would double. Think about that. Banks at the time paid you maybe 5% in a year. Ponzi was offering to double your money before the season changed. The first investors were cautious, a handful of people, a few $1,000s, and 45 days later, Ponzi paid them. Every penny, exactly as promised. That was the moment the trap snapped shut. Because here's what those happy investors never understood. Ponzi wasn't paying them with profits from coupons. There were no profits. He was paying them with money taken from the next group of investors. and those people would be paid with money from the group after that. It's a machine that only runs in one direction. It can never stop taking in more than it pays out, because the second it slows down, it dies. Today we have a name for that machine. We named it after him. We call it a Ponzi scheme. But in 1920, nobody knew the name yet. All they knew was that a man in Boston was handing out fortunes, and the word was spreading like fire. The frenzy. By the summer of 1920, Boston had lost its mind. Police officers quit their jobs to invest. Widows handed over their pensions. Immigrants who had crossed an ocean with nothing pooled their savings and pressed the cash into Ponzi's hands. People mortgaged their homes to get in. The lines outside his office grew so long that police were sent just to keep order. At his peak, money was pouring in at a rate of around $250,000 a day. By some estimates, more than 40,000 people trusted him with their money. And Ponzi played the part beautifully. He bought a mansion in the suburbs. He rode through the city in a chauffeured car in tailored suits with a gold-handled cane. To the working people of Boston, he wasn't a criminal. He was proof that the dream was real. He was a hero. But a hero attracts attention. And one local newspaper, the Boston Post, started asking a very simple, very dangerous question. If this man is so rich, where exactly is the money coming from? The math. The newspaper brought in a financial analyst named Clarence Barron to look at Ponzi's operation. And Barron didn't need to break into a vault or chase a paper trail. He just needed a pencil. He asked one question. How many of these postal coupons would actually have to exist in the entire world to back up all the money Ponzi had taken in? The answer was staggering. To support his investments, roughly 160 million coupons would need to be in circulation. The number that actually existed, worldwide, around 27,000. The math wasn't off by a little. It was off by a universe. There was no possible way the coupons were real. The empire was built on nothing but the next person in line. When the Boston Post printed it, the spell began to crack, and then it shattered. Investors who had been happily reinvesting suddenly wanted their money back. All of them, all at once. This is the one thing a Ponzi scheme can never survive: the run. The collapse. For a few desperate days, Ponzi tried to hold it together. He stood outside his own office, calm, smiling, handing out cash to anyone who demanded it, even serving them coffee and sandwiches, telling them there was nothing to worry about. It was a performance. Behind that smile, he was finished, and he knew it. When the government finally sent auditors in to open his books, they found exactly what Clarence Barron's pencil had predicted. There were no investments. There was no fortune. There was a man who owed millions of dollars and had almost nothing to pay it with. On August 12, 1920, Charles Ponzi was arrested. The collapse didn't stop with him. He had pulled in so much money that when it vanished, it took banks down with it. Thousands of ordinary families lost everything. Some of them never recovered. The man who had promised to double their money had, in the end, simply taken it. The long fall. Ponzi pleaded guilty and went to federal prison. But even prison couldn't kill the con artist in him. When he got out, he immediately started new schemes selling worthless swampland in Florida as if it were a paradise. He was caught again. He went back behind bars. And in 1934, the United States gave up on him entirely. They deported him back to Italy, the country he had left 30 years earlier as a hopeful young man with $2.50. He tried to charm his way into one new venture after another. None of them lasted. Eventually, he drifted to Brazil, and there the great Charles Ponzi, the man who once made $250,000 a day, slowly faded into poverty. He died in Rio de Janeiro in January of 1949, in a charity hospital, nearly blind, partly paralyzed, and almost completely broke. He left behind just enough money to cover his own burial. So why do we still remember a man who died with nothing? Because Charles Ponzi never really sold coupons, or stocks, or land. What he sold was something far more powerful and far more dangerous. He sold the promise of getting something for nothing. And he proved that no matter how impossible that promise is, there will always be a line of people willing to believe it. That's why his name didn't die with him. Every time a scheme collapses because it was only ever paying old investors with new money, we reach for the same word. His word. The man is gone. But the crime he perfected is still running, somewhere, right now. If you made it this far, you already know the rule that could have saved every one of his victims. If a deal sounds too good to be true, it almost always is. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.